Everyone. Nice to be back with you. This is the third AMA session that we are having. I'm very honored and happy to have a good friend of mine from several years, Sandeep Singhal. Welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you.
As you know, we've been trying to have these sessions with startup ecosystem leaders. Uh, because of one, obviously, they have been in this ecosystem for a long time. They were the ones who helped build this ecosystem and have been involved with the ups and downs that we have gone through already. But at the same time, as leaders, they actually have a much broader perspective. So far we have had mostly VCs, but as you can imagine, not only are they looking at multiple startups coming their way, but they also have portfolio startups in their portfolio who are struggling through things. So it's not like they're giving some high level gyan. They're actually working with these startups, helping them through their issues, existential or otherwise, to really kind of get a handle on how to make this thing work for them. So it's while there is a broad perspective, there's also very specific things that are working with other startups, so that could be shared with you as well. So this is the kind of discussion that we would like to have on this call. So once again, welcome. What I would do is I will take a few minutes to explain to you what THub is and why you should continue to look at us as somebody who can support you not only through this part of the journey of overcoming the setbacks due to the pandemic, but also post the journey, what else that you could expect this organization to do. So what I will do is I will try to show you something, a couple of slides, so that you get a chance to understand THub and also where in the larger scheme of things this falls. Sorry, I'm trying to get this right. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can, Ravi.
Okay, great. Yeah, so THub, several of you know about THub from different perspectives. So we have created probably one of the most vibrant ecosystem in the state of Telangana and in any state for that matter, where we are looking to build an ecosystem that caters to startups, caters to corporations, caters to investors, academia, and government. So while we feel that a lot of ecosystems only focus go directly at doing something with startups alone, but I feel startups are the ultimate beneficiaries of all the innovation work that's happening in the ecosystem. So this is where they find their customers. This is where they find their collaborators in terms of technology coming in from academia. This is where they find their investors, and also opening up the demand for them from not just the industry but also the government is a big thing that we do in the work at Telangana, and now we are doing this across India. So it's a very comprehensive worldview that we have, and we feel that we are enablers and empowerers of making each and every one of these constituencies on the screen successful. So if startups want to innovate, they come to Telangana or Hyderabad. If corporates are building their back-end systems, their R&D for latest and greatest technology and innovation, they should actually come to Hyderabad. So that is the kind of a worldview that we are trying to create around Telangana, which is the youngest state and also the startup state in India, and that's our vision. So there are three things that we do. We have something called startup innovation, where all the way from the beginning of your journey of going through incubation programs, early stages of bootstrapping, angel to seed, we have do a family of programs that you can go through, the incubation family of programs. Then, once you start getting into Series A, we have another set of programs that will actually take you through that. A lot of times, what most of our startup ecosystem does is they kind of take their eyes off of it, saying, oh, now you got Series A, you're all set. In fact, that's only the beginning of your scaling journey. You really need a lot more help in terms of building your team, in terms of being able to negotiate larger and larger contracts with customers, and so on and so forth. So we have this acceleration set of programs, and then beyond Series A, we have scaling programs. And obviously, the thought process there is, what is it that you need to go global? What is it that you need to raise your B, C, D, E kind of rounds of funding? So we would like to see ourselves throughout your entire journey while you're building your startup, and that's what a startup innovation division does. In the corporate innovation division, we are primarily focused on creating an open innovation platform in our corporates, because corporates are going to be your customers, and the more and more we can generate this demand for you, the more and more you will be successful making taking your startups to the next level. So the demand generation piece is what we do here. So the emerging set of programs is primarily for a lot of these corporates that are quite clueless as to what startups do and how do they interact with them. And sort of a lot of times, I'm sure you have tried to approach them and ask them for help, and they're quite clueless as to who you are. Why don't you have a 3-year balance sheet and so on and so forth? So we try and do a lot of this educational, evangelical work in this family of programs. So all the way from providing them startup reports to running entrepreneurship workshops for them, to doing some hackathons, maybe as a good way to break the ice. We try and get them ready for a conversation with startups. In the coordinated set of programs, we actually are trying to elicit a very specific a problem statement from them, so that they can actually articulate what is it that they are trying to solve for, what product are they looking to build, and so on and so forth. So then what we'll do is we'll map the appropriate set of startups to that program and then create POCs. So it's a way for them to culturally get acclimatized to thinking beyond what their engineers or R&D division can do. It is about broader involvement with startups as well. And in the transformative, there is a very clear direction of architecting their entire product using startups as a part of it. So in this stage, we also are helping them with acqui-hire, we are helping them with acquisition, we are helping them with their corporate venture arm to start putting money into some of the startups. So this is where we begin to really get this process going, and the flywheel is beginning to work for these corporations. And then the disruptive is where they're beginning to think broadly, and maybe think that, okay, if a startup can do this, why don't I do it as well? And begin to go back to their fundamentals and use the new technologies and new business models to re-architect themselves. Because if they don't do that, what we tell them is they're going to be irrelevant in the next 50 years. So they better start doing it today. So we do a lot of this work for generating the demand for startups. And then finally, we have this division called Ecosystem Innovation, where we have Vinutha on this call. Vinutha runs this ecosystem office, where we have this as a central pool of mentors, investors, service providers. They are all being recruited, engaged. We make sure that the right engagement models are emerging from there. And this also is a place where we're building the entire ecosystem of the of Telangana and various other states. So we do a lot of capacity building work here. So as you probably know, we are running incubator manager training with NITI Aayog, with DPIIT, and that kind of work comes out of the ecosystem office. International programs is where we are taking some of the top Indian startups to the global markets, and also bringing in some of the top global startups to actually come and sell into the governments and corporates within the Indian market. And then eventually we have community and events, which is basically bringing in the right aspirational entrepreneurs to start engaging on some of the early programs that we can bring in, bringing in the innovation mindset into the ecosystem. So this is the kind of work that we do. So it's a very fairly comprehensive. It's not just about startups. It is about startups, but it's much more than that, right? So that's kind of. I just wanted to give you a gist of what we do at THub. Um, we have been running the webinar series now for quite some time, and the reason for us to do this is to be there for you when you need us the most. I just skipped over that slide because I want to summarize it here much quicker. So we feel that a lot of people associate their problems as being unique. Yes, it is unique to you, but it's also something that has been faced by several other people and that has been solved as well in the past. It's not like this is absolutely new. When I was building my startups in the US and then in India, I have gone through the same issues. So there's very clearly the fact that there will be issues like this, and there is also the end of the tunnel, and you'll go past these issues. So to help you with all these existential questions, we feel that let's give you a comfort that this too shall pass, and well, when it passes, you may actually have much broader set of opportunities ahead of you, right? So that's kind of the work that we do in the webinar series, where it's handling the hard time. We also feel, because of the things that we had taken for granted, where there would be face-to-face interactions, going into an office, and so on and so forth, certain things were kind of put away. Some things like project planning, or creating a strategy around certain work that you're doing, um, monitoring progress of the various different projects. So these were things that were done quite informally, and you could afford to do that because you were face to face. Because you thought everything that is about processes and all these KPIs and all that that's for the corporate. It's not for us startups. We are saying no. You need to bring some of these things back, because one, you guys are working from, a lot of your employees, and you are working from home. So for you all to be working off of the same set of priorities is absolutely important. Then how do you really communicate when there are so much interdependencies between the work that your colleagues do versus you and other departments? How do you make sure that all of this is coming together seamlessly? So those are the things that we want to do. There's nothing magical about it. I'm sure you know this conceptually, but most of these webinar series is to actually help you bring these things back in the context of the current situation. And then we have plan B, which is an opportunity for us to step back and say, what may be actually emerging, because the normal that you actually left behind when we went into this pandemic crisis situation is not the same normal that you will go back to after this pandemic has passed. It is going to be a new normal. Now, the the sooner you begin to reconcile yourself to that fact, the sooner you can actually characterize where are your new opportunities, or who are your new customers, how much do they care about these problems that they're facing, and therefore you can price your product appropriately. The sooner you can repackage your products into the new opportunities, the better off you're going to be. And the good news is, whoever you thought were your competitors, they may no longer be in existence post this crisis. You may actually be the front runner for all that you can, but it takes a lot of fortitude and thinking to be able to make the plan B or a C or a D or E, whatever that guy is going to come out of this thing, out of the other side. And then they ask me anything is what you are in right now, which is where you get a chance to meet with the leaders, several of our leaders in the startup ecosystem, and get to ask them questions directly about the things that you're facing. And you that you will have plenty of questions as it progresses, and some of those questions we are not able to answer. We make an attempt to answer it post this session as well. So this gives you a chance to meet people who have this bird's eye view, but also a very practical set of advice. And also, as human beings, they have been through this before, so you can associate with them and say, you've been through this. What are the things in which way we can engage going forward. So this is kind of my quick introduction to webinars. And as far as some of the past webinars, we have done several of them, and we continue to have more webinars as we go along. So I just wanted to give you a sense that we have plenty of things coming your way, and we are there to help you. Look upon us to be that platform that will hold your hands as you go through this crisis, and make sure that that you are not going to be left alone. We will come out of this stronger and much more competitive than we entered into this crisis. So with that, I'll stop. I will invite Sandeep to share his initial thoughts.
Thanks, Ravi, and welcome everyone. And I'm looking forward to the interaction. I saw some of the questions that you guys have already started posting on the chat, so I'm sure there are a lot of questions at this time right now. Maybe I'll start by giving a little bit of introduction about myself. I started a fund in '99, and so I saw the whole downturn of 2001. And then I started a fund in 2006, and I saw the downturn of 2008. So, I think starting a fund, I should be careful to start another fund and start another downturn. But, we've sort of seen an opportunity in these situations as well, as Ravi mentioned. So maybe I'll talk about who we are as Nexus, what do we do, and that will give all of you a perspective on what kind of questions I can answer. So, I started eVentures in '99, as I mentioned. At that time, we invested in companies like Make My Trip and Customer Asset and NetMagic, and so on. 2001 happened. We had 14 companies in our portfolio. 7 of them are still active in different forms. So a lot of entrepreneurs that held steady did very well, with Make My Trip and NetMagic. I'm sure a lot of you know those 2 companies. Subsequently, I started my own company. It was a healthcare BPO that helped doctors and hospitals in the US. We built that out, took it to cash flow positive, and then I started Nexus. And with the idea, this was a cross-border fund. We invest both in US and India. Our focus is on technology companies and technology-enabled businesses. So could be a business in any area as long as it is using technology to deliver its services or products. And so in India, we have been very active across retail, a bunch of e-commerce investments. We have invested in education. We have invested in healthcare. We've invested in agriculture. We have invested in financial services. And again, the key thing across all these businesses is that they have used technology effectively to either provide a better customer experience or provide a solution which did not exist before, or provide something at a cheaper cost, right? So there are multiple ways you can leverage technology to drive innovation and customer service. The fund itself is we're managing about $1.5 billion across 5 funds, and again, have been in the current market. We continue to be active in looking at investments. We have made 2 or 3 investments recently, and we'll continue to talk to entrepreneurs who are looking at this time as an opportunity to scale their businesses, to make their business more robust, and come out of this period much stronger. So that's a little bit about Nexus and our background, and my personal background. So maybe a little bit of a perspective on what's happening in the market right now. So I don't know how many of the audience follows the VC industry very closely, but 2019 was one of the most active periods of fundraising for VCs. So there is a lot of money that was raised by VCs that were focused on the India market in the 2018 2019 timeframe. So there's actually a lot of capital available in the market right now, and so it's not just Nexus, but other venture funds are also looking for backing entrepreneurs that can sort of scale businesses over time. And as an industry, we look at a 5 to 7 year horizon in building a business, right? So we are not looking at this and saying, what is your revenue going to be in 3 months' time, or what is your, are you going to get profitable in the next year, right? So what we are really looking for is what is the business that you're building over the next 5 to 7 year horizon that will allow a potential exit for an investor, right? So if I come in and invest right now, what is it that I will see 5 years out or 7 years out, which I can be reasonably comfortable will give me a return on the money that I deploy right now. So that's if you take that horizon, these are all instances that happen in time which are out of our control. But what you can control is a longer term perspective on where your market is going as a entrepreneur, where your technology is going, where your ability to hire people and bring them on board. So this just becomes a time in which you think about where you can take the existing environment and leverage it towards that 5 to 7 year horizon. So, I actually, so the main thing over here is think of this optimistically and take a longer term view when you're talking to investors like me. So that's the first part. I think the second thing is, given that there is capital there, where are we looking for opportunities, right? So obviously opportunities always start with individuals, so they start with you as founders, but the other key thing that we look for is large markets. So if you are talking to investors right now, whether it is today or whether it is in the future, what you have to present is what is the large market that you're going after, and why do you think it's large, and why should we see sort of believe in that. So I think that sort of again goes back to this point that take a long-term view and really think about where markets will be 5 to 7 years from now. On that front, one of the things that we have seen this, I would say, over the last decade, but we believe that it will actually accelerate because of what we are in right now, the situation that we are in right now, are in sort of remote solutions or remote ways of doing things. So we are right now having a conversation on a video call, which in the past one would have thought, okay, let's organize an event in Hyderabad or wherever else, and Sandeep will come out there. He will address an audience that's sitting in a conference room or an auditorium. Now all of that is being changed in some ways and potentially made a lot more convenient both for me as a presenter and for you as audience. And at the same time, it's also giving an opportunity for access to many people who would not have to be able to do this physically. So we believe that this notion of convenience as a driving factor is going to play a more and more important role in consumer behavior. So if you look at the Indian consumer behavior in the past, in terms of the use of online platforms and so on, has been driven significantly by discounting. So you have a discount led adoption in the Indian online space, right? Whether it is your e-commerce. So a lot of companies were enticing consumers by giving discounts. Now today, when the consumer is unable to buy stuff offline, they are by force having to come onto online platforms to purchase. So a classic example there is of grocery. So grocery was one segment that for the longest time you just did not see anybody playing in that. In the online space, people were always talking about grocery was the big market and everybody would get there, but nobody was making a very strong push into that. Now, if you look at every online player has some initiative in grocery. Now, what that is doing is, as a consumer, if you are sitting there, you earlier had a big basket or maybe a grocers to play with. Today, an Amazon is there. Today, a Flipkart is coming in. Reliance is building out its technology and its online home delivery platform. A Misho is coming in, a Zomato is coming in, a Swiggy is coming in, right? So all of a sudden, as these players are entering this space, consumers are changing their behavior. They are seeing this opportunity to procure on these online platforms, and they're not getting any discounts. So none of these platforms today in the grocery space is giving any discount, but consumers are still buying because it's the most convenient way of doing that. Now, grocery is one segment which is a continuous use segment. So if consumers get used to buying grocery online and they find it to be valuable, and they are okay paying with Google Pay or Phone Pay or Paytm or whatever sort of online payment mechanisms they are used to, then it will be easier for them to say, okay, I can make that same payment when I buy my next dress, or when I buy my next shoes, or whatever else, right? So convenience will start becoming a driving factor for online purchases in other areas as well. So I think that's a big sort of shift that we are seeing. Now, if you're an entrepreneur and you are sitting there and saying, I have a business today which is primarily offline, and there are probably a lot of you over here who are running manufacturing business. So how does a manufacturing business benefit from these trends? So one is clearly that if you're a manufacturing business, online as a distribution channel should become more important to you. So if you are, there are B2B online platforms that are getting created, Moglix, Off Business, Jumbo Tail. So there are a bunch of these companies that are coming in that are connecting businesses to businesses. And if you are in the manufacturing space, today you are maybe locked down, but if you really think about a 5 to 7 year horizon, you have to think about these as becoming a significant part of your overall, channel. And the other thing is, on your delivery side, you have to think. Sorry, on your manufacturing side, you have to think about how can you use technology to become more efficient. How do you, make e-procurement a part of your day-to-day working? How do you make HR systems that link your workers more closely with you, right? So if today a migrant worker from your factory has disappeared to his village, is there a way for you to connect to him and bring him back? I would say 90% of the people would say, no, I don't have any way, because they haven't built those systems. So I think there are this sort of period which appears like a tough period right now is also a good period for us to learn on how to improve our own processes, improve our market thinking, and so on, and make our business more robust. So Ravi, I think with this, I will stop right now and give people a chance to ask questions or.
This was great. Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. I think this was a very good overview of where you see the market and where the opportunities to grow. Anything that you would like to add in terms of the kind of areas where your portfolio companies are struggling with, and what kind of advice are you giving them, so that it gives a context for the people as to what has been seen and what are the ready-made strategies to address them.
Yeah. So as I was describing, we invest in two broad areas. So one is technology, which are sort of software product companies, and the other are sort of consumer companies that are using technology to provide a better service. So I'll break my viewpoints across these two areas. On the software side, we haven't seen as much of impact yet of this lockdown, and the reason for that is software companies have typically been have been very conscious about what we call business continuity program, right? A BCP. So they have been able to adapt very quickly to this work from home model. So in terms of delivery, one of the things that we are seeing is companies built reasonably robust connecting systems, so you could connect from your home into an office server and work remotely, because that was something they were offering to their employees beforehand. The second area that they've been able to do is communication, right? So they've been able to improve their communication. A lot of companies are using Microsoft Teams or Google products sort of to do that. Zoom, for example, as well. The main area where software companies are obviously seeing some impact in the short term is sales and marketing, and particularly enterprise sales. Companies that were focused on enterprise sales have seen an issue, because you just can't a salesperson can't go for meetings anymore. And this effectively started, I would say, in the February timeframe. It got much worse in March, but it's something that we have seen across our portfolio. Companies, their customers are still continuing to show interest in buying technology products, particularly technology products that help them work remotely. So some of our companies that are providing solutions for remote access or remote working and so on are seeing interest in demand, a spike in demand. But others, which are much more around productivity and so on, the sale is taking longer. So there is definitely going to be impact on the software companies in softening demand, particularly in the next 2 quarters. And that we are telling our companies that you plan for that. That planning could either be, if you are not overstaffed, that's sort of but is a hiring freeze. So the starting point is effectively a hiring freeze, right? I think that from the questions that I see, that everybody is saying this today, right? So, but you have to go beyond that. And so on the software company side, one of the things that we are suggesting to our companies is think about remote sales and remote onboarding. If you have your product today and you have depended on salespeople to sell it, or you have depended on somebody going to the client to deploy the software, how can you change your product to make it easier to sell and easier to deploy? How do you create demos which are in some ways self-explanatory? You don't need to have a salesperson taking somebody through a demo. How do improve your inside sales capability to allow inside sales people to be as effective as an on-site salesperson? Then the next part comes to post-sales onboarding. So there are tools that are available for helping with onboarding, but I think it starts again with looking at how can you make your software, how can you architect it in a way which is easy to deploy. Some of the softwares require integration into other software that a customer may have, in particularly the enterprise software space. So how do you make it easier for a customer to work remotely with your team to integrate your software into their environments? So I think those are some of the things that we are telling our software companies. Software companies that are doing SaaS and are doing sort of developer tools and so on, there we haven't really seen that much impact, as I was saying, partly because they're being seen as a remote working capability, or saving on costs. On the consumer side, or on the sort of, let's say, physical infra side, where you have companies that are physical in nature. So there could be NBFC, it could be a agricultural financing company or agricultural warehousing company. We have a company that manufactures spices and soya. We have a company that manufactures auto components. So these companies are obviously feeling the impact of the lockdown a lot more. So if you are, let's say Rapido, right? So Rapido provides a bike taxi. Now in this time with the social distancing and everything else that is there, and number one, obviously nobody's allowed to go out in the lockdown situation, so there is no need for a bike taxi. But even post this fact, there is going to be a period of time when, because of social distancing norms or people feeling, afraid or whatever else, people will not take a bike taxi. People may choose to walk. People may choose to, even, it's an interesting phenomena where you're sort of trying to make this choice between, should I take the bus, should I walk, should I have my own personal transport, or should I go on a bike rider, sitting behind a pillion. So there is going to be this. So so in this situation, what we are telling our companies is, again, the most important thing is to ride out this downturn. You need to come out of this first, right? Before you can think about the future. The present is the most important thing for you to make it through this. So wherever possible, companies that have the resources, that have raised capital in recent times, we are telling them to expend that capital as much as possible, by cutting down on overhead, cutting down on growth initiatives, cutting down on things which are under your control. So the way we think about that is the first cuts you take are places which are easily reversible, right? So today, if you think about it, and you are,
Sandeep,
yeah.
so let's just pause here, maybe, so that some of these questions come directly to you, and then you can
Okay.
answer specific things.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. So we'll try and extend a little time so that we can take a few questions from all the audience. I see about four raised hands and several others in the chat box. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yeah.
Should
So let's
we
move to
open
the
it up for
question.
questions?
Yeah, before we start the Q&A, I would request people who have a question to raise their hand and please provide access to your mic and camera. So the first question is from Fanindra Durba from We Lift Technologies.
Hi, funny.
Hello.
There you are. Please go ahead.
I can see the question
Hello.
in the chat. Yeah. Go ahead.
We can hear you, Funny. Please ask a question.
Hello.
Yeah, we can
Ash.
hear you.
Hello.
Okay, there
We
seems
can
to be
hear you.
some communication. Moving ahead, we have a question from Kiran Kumar from Only.
Avinash, I can see Fanin's question on the chat. Should I answer it?
Yeah, we will take the raise hand questions first and then we will move on with the questions in the chat.
Okay.
Hey, good morning. Hey, Ravi. Thanks for insightful talk in the beginning, and thanks, Sandeep, for giving the broader spectrum of how the post-lockdown, how the business is going to be impactful. Actually, we are into the online food catering space. It's a marketplace for all the caterers to come in. And in fact, we cater to B2C as well as to the B2B businesses. That's the food business we are in, where we have broad, variety of caterers being in our platform. And for B2C, we cater to all the small, medium, and large functions. And for B2B, for all the employers who are supplying for their employees, that's where we come in. And through our partners, we supply the food. And I just want a question to Sandeep is that, how do you see this industry going to get affected positively or negatively, and how the consumer behavior going to be changed? Or will there people will continue to prefer to eat food from outside? Just from your thought process or from your analysis, if you can give some insights, that would be great.
So maybe I would broadly answer this question in the context of what we are seeing with cloud kitchens. So if you look at there is a general shift towards cloud kitchens, right? So if I think of your caterers as cloud kitchen providers, so it's a mindset shift to say, okay, I'm catering and I'm delivering product to say a Microsoft in Bangalore or a Microsoft in Hyderabad. I am today you could sort of think of that as a cloud kitchen. So in that model, the size is actually only growing; it's not decreasing. The physical aspect of it, I think, will take time. So the catering industry, from a physical standpoint, will see some impact. I think the social distancing norms will continue for a while. Indians are, I think, a lot more resilient than what we have seen in developed markets. So I don't see as much of an impact on weddings and other sort of events in India as we do elsewhere, unless the government becomes very very strict as they are right now. Some of that should pick up, but people that are doing corporate functions, corporate events, I think that market will come down. So from your client side, I would say from your the people who are on the marketplace, I would say they should really look at themselves as a cloud kitchen provider and see if they have an opportunity to be a provider on a Zomato or a Swiggy or any other of these platforms through you, right? So you can become an aggregator for them. Some of these guys may be pretty small and they're not able to deal directly. So how do you work with them to make that possible?
Sure. Thanks, Sandeep, for insightful thoughts.
Thanks,
Thank you. Thanks, Ram. Thank you.
So the next question is from Prapul Kumar from Avariel.
Hi Ravi, hi Sandeep, Prapul here. Basically, I'm from background of a HR as a recruiter turned entrepreneur. It's been like 5 years my entrepreneurship journey. So one of the biggest problem which I have seen from the tier 2 city, being I myself from the tier 2 city, lot of talent from colleges generally leave for metro cities because for jobs. And on the other hand, if we see the statistics from ASCT, like the education, the body ASCT, only 22% who are getting currently placed, and that is majority of the employment happening in service-based industries. What I believe is, and I'm working on my startup is, how about helping the students from the first years or the second years connecting to the right founders where I can develop an entrepreneur mindset through internships. And slowly by end of the fourth year, either they'll start working for the product-based company or else at least start working for their own ideas or something which they're really passionate about. Because it's been like interviewing several people in the campus lives. I saw one of the biggest problems from the student persona is they're not passionate about what they are doing currently. So now it is a question for Sandeep. So as you mentioned, like you should focus on the market where you see down the line 5 to 7 years. How about like this particular internships in trying this entrepreneur mindset? What if we have taking at least another 2 to 3 years, like other revenues are happening, and can we connect to the investors in this period while building the product? And because I also have a good passion, but I didn't approach so far for any investing, and also don't have any seed or angel kind of a support at this point of time. And one more thing, this current target segment, when you mention about market, what I feel is majority of millennials also doesn't know how to handle the parenting process. So that is a different market again. So can that be also subsidized?
Let's pause here. Let Sandeep answer
Sure.
questions of what you're already doing as a business today, and how to take it forward.
So, Prapul, I think the point, this thing that you've identified in terms of students being unaware or unclear about their goals. and and part of it is the fact that they haven't been exposed to working environments, so they don't really know what to expect. I think is true. We haven't really had a culture of internships in India like we have seen in other markets. If you look at some of the developed markets, Germany is probably the most advanced in terms of the connect between the schooling and in term industry. They have this whole concept called Fachhochschule, which is effectively internship based teaching mechanism. The there have been multiple attempts at this. So number one, what you are talking about, I think there have been people who have tried this. The challenge has been primarily around standardization of educational norms, ability to for a internship provider to know what they are getting on the other side. So the see the there is a bigger challenge, obviously, that we have people that have graduated and are looking for jobs, and people are thinking about full-time employment. There are enough people thinking about full-time employment, right? That this part-time employment sort of becomes a bit of a second order requirement. So in the Indian context, one of the challenges obviously has always been that if I'm a company that's hiring, where would I put my resources? So I would always put my resources in hiring employees that I can keep for a longer period of time. One of the big challenges, as you know, in the Indian industry is attrition. So because of that, attrition. If you think about attrition, attrition is an indirect internship model, because a person comes into a company, realizes after 3 months of working there or 6 months of working there, it's not working out for them. That's what internships are supposed to do, right? So in some ways there is a lot of linkages between our current full-time recruitment models and the internship thing. So what ends up happening with internships, and this is if you look at why do companies want to bring on interns, the idea of bringing on interns is you're not doing sort of service, right? It's not a service. You're not providing service to the society. It is you are as an employer doing it for your own good, and that good is that you're able to test someone without making a commitment for a long term job, right? So in the Indian context, obviously that does not exist, because the overall job market is so fluid and attrition is just taken as a given. The Indian employer does not think of internships as a means for testing. So the internship market in India is therefore very shallow, and it is only for the upper end of the sort of colleges where an employer doesn't have a choice but to try an internship to get that person interested in them. So that's why you see most of the internships in India right now are at the IITs or the ISBs, or the large institutions that are well known, where the employer is saying, I'm effectively marketing to this person to become a full-time employee at my company. And the only way I'll get them interested in me is if I get them an internship. So I think that I'm just giving you a little bit of background as you're thinking about your problem.
Yeah, yeah. See,
Thank you, Sandeep. Prabhu, we'll take a few more questions. We have at least five more hands raised. So
Yeah, so
let's take a couple.
before we continue with the next question, we'll take a minute's break and we request you to fill in the feedback form, because it's important for us to understand what you want, and based on that, we can provide you better webinars. And so, for that, I would request you to go to the link in the chat and please fill in the form.
Hey, Vinash.
Thanks for filling, guys. Keep the feedback coming in. So moving on to the next question. It's from Prithvi Raj, who's the founder of Shuffle.
Sandeep and Ravi, hi. I'm Prithvi, founder of Shuffle. We are a cloud kitchen startup working through our own operations. What my question is to you is, as a cloud kitchen startup, can we aim to survive on our own platforms other than putting ourselves into the hands of aggregators to gain traction as cloud kitchens as why we do cloud kitchens is not only for serve healthy and hygienic food, but also to solve a problem of productive eating. So can we do that surviving on our own platforms?
I think you asked this question something related to this last time, so I'll let Sandeep answer this time.
Yeah, something related to this.
Yeah. So then, Prithvi, the thing we have to think about is if you are trying to build a scale business around a cloud kitchen, which gets you direct to consumer, what are the pieces of the business that you'll have to build, right? So that would include everything from a front end marketing engine to delivery platforms and everything else, right? So, and then step back and say, what is the capital that is required for this to happen? And finally, what does the consumer want, right? So why would the consumer come to a cloud kitchen versus going to an aggregator? So I would break this into two. One is think of the consumer demand profile, and the second is to the resources required to do what you would have to do, and take that analysis to develop a point of view whether you're better off being on an aggregator or doing this on your own.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, sure. Thanks for that.
Thanks, Prithvi.
Thank you, Prithvi.
Yeah.
Next question is from Shekhar Chaganti, who is the CEO of Technodome.
Hello.
Hi, Shekhar.
Hello, Donor and sir. My name is Chandrasekhar, and first of all, I am kind of a fan to you. It's your journey is quite inspiration, and apart from like establishing the Red Bus and everything, it's really inspirational. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sir, can you see me?
No, we just can see your photograph.
Okay. All right, sir. So as this is an AMA session, I just want to ask you a question. We are an AI-based startup company into the legal industry. So we want to use artificial intelligence technology to draft the cases for the lawyers. So I'm honest. I want to be honest with you. So we are nowhere near to achieve our goal. But what we are doing is we are training the neural sets to learn the old cases and trying to get the judgment out of it and trying to make the drafts out of it. So we are at the very initial stages of our research. At this stage, can we go for a funding? Is it even possible for us to get the funding? So far, we are bootstrapping everything from the past 2 years. That is one of my questions. And second thing, as everybody is saying, don't leave any crisis, just like that. It's like an opportunity to grow. So we are also been working with this entire project report to, we want to get into the manufacturing of into N95 masks. So is there a possibility to get a funding? These questions are I am directly asking to Mr. Sandeep Singhal, sir.
So I think Ravi, I saw Ravi smiling as well. Two very different businesses, right? Training neural networks on old cases to develop a sort of legal drafting software versus doing N95 masks, two very different businesses.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Tashir, I would say that the N95 mask is a very opportunistic thing right now, right? And there are probably 100 other people that are thinking along the same lines. Some of who are much further along, either in their understanding of manufacturing or in their ability to source machines or their ability to sell these masks and so on. So if you're thinking of entering a new business line, you have to sort of go back to ground principles and say, why am I the right guy to do it? What do I bring to the table to make that happen, right? So I would just leave it at that. I don't know you to be able to say, okay, whether you should do it or not, right? So that's something that you should sort of self-evaluate and come to that point of view. That what do I have that another mask manufacturer today who's supplying surgical masks may not have. Second, to your point around doing research on the legal drafting software and whether you can raise funding for it, I would say, at this, based on what you're defining, this is really a sort of angel stage investment, and so yes, there could be people who are lawyers or people who are in the tech industry, whoever, who know you and say, okay, these guys can really build an amazing NLP engine, can build a amazing AI platform. So again, since I don't know you, I can't answer whether you can or not. But yes, there might be angels who would be interested in backing you. So you should go back to THub and sort of see whether there is a way that they can connect you to potential angels.
Okay. All right, sir. So as they were like,
Shekhar, looks like this business is something that you've been doing for some time. So you have some background and you have some things to demonstrate to potential investors. So you should explore this program that we have called T Angel, where we could introduce you to some of the angel investors who are looking at opportunities in this space. So we can do that separately. Avinash or Vinuta on this call, they can actually help you with that. So we'll restrict it to this much, and then we'll take the next question, Shekhar. So
The next question is from Rahul Kanukanti, who is the founder of Flita.
Hey, Sandeep and Ravi, good morning.
Hi.
Thanks for a wonderful session, Ravi. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks, Rahul.
Yeah. So quickly, I'll not take much of the time. We are a mobility platform for corporations managing their employee relocations. A couple of the clients include Accenture, Infosys, Invesco, and a few more Fortune 500 companies. Now, here is where the challenge is. As we were a platform, we could restrict ourselves to logistics, or we can experiment beyond logistics of what facilities can we offer, be it travel, be it accommodation, and all of it. So it's a gamut of things, depends upon the policy of the company whenever their employees relocate. Now, hiring has become a challenge where we see the trend is going down. Most of the offer letters roll back. But we have built our expertise in the logistics segment. In fact, we have been the first company in India to come back and help the same employees to deliver the work essentials by partnering with companies like Rapido or smaller ones which do door deliveries. What is your say on the mobility of people? Or what do you look at the future is going to be like?
So, Rahul, just to understand, the question is that you're pivoting into providing so today you're providing a solution for relocation, right? It is not for day-to-day commute or anything like that.
No, it's for relocation.
It's for relocation. And your question is more around mobility in the day-to-day commute context.
Not day-to-day commute context. Interim, we managed to get the employees work essentials delivered, like laptops, IT equipments for while working from home. But my question is, do you see that people will still keep mobile? I mean, will talent migrate from one city to other city, or taking up new job offers? And how long do you think that there'll be an impact on rolling out new offer letters for talent spread across India?
That's a tough question to answer because we don't know where the disease situation is right now. So I think a lot of that answer depends on where healthcare, guidelines will be. Um, will people be willing to move? Yeah, that's a given. The Indian, with the current sort of job situation, I would say there is probably going to be increased mobility rather than less mobility. That is a given. So as soon as the world sort of gets back to normal, and I would say you hear economists talk about anywhere from 3 to 6 months. There will be mobility will sort of get back on track.
Sure. That answers my question, Sandeep. Thank you so much.
That's an optimistic view for you, Rahul.
We'll take a question from the offline chat. So we have a question from Manikant who asks, after this pandemic, how can small-scale manufacturing industry look ahead, and what can banks do for these small startups?
Okay. Small-scale manufacturing industry. So, one of the things that is happening is, there is broadly aggregation that is occurring in different industries, and so one approach is to see which industry you are playing in as a small manufacturer, and are you should you be aggregating and becoming larger and providing a sort of better footprint to your customers. So I think that's one thing you should be thinking about, because so there's already a talk about a shift from Chinese supply chains to other parts of the world. So going up to that sort of macro level where if people are looking to move out of China, where will they go? And some obviously are taking it back to their home countries. But if you read what's happening in Vietnam, for example, right? Vietnam is benefiting tremendously from things moving into their sort of manufacturing domain from China, and I believe that some of that will also come to India. And so it depends on which segment you're in. Today, if you are an electronics manufacturer, it will be tough to scale into becoming a large electronics manufacturer in India, because the underlying sort of supply chain may not be there. But if you're in, say, chemicals, then there is chemicals or pharma and so on. There is a strong expectation that you will see aggregation, consolidation happening in those markets, and there may be an opportunity for you to scale your business alongside that, right? So that's one. Second is I think small scale manufacturing, where there is clear some intellectual property that you have that allows you to either provide a better product or provide a product cheaper, I think are also going to be very important going forward. So it just won't be. So I wouldn't say conversion alone will be enough. There are in India, a lot of small scale manufacturing happened because of the way our manufacturing laws were drafted. So we had the large companies were sourcing from small manufacturers because of the way our manufacturing policy was set up, and it was effectively a conversion business, right? You were given raw materials, you converted them, and you provided them to your customer. That again, there's going to. My belief is that there's going to be change there. You will see these larger customers looking for larger suppliers going forward, and I think there will be a change in manufacturing policy to support that. The large customers will look for suppliers that can provide more than just conversion. Could be bringing in R&D of some type, could be bringing in better machinery, could be becoming having better talent working there, better labor, so you have less defects and so on. So those are some of the things that I see.
Yeah, just to add to that, just wanted to mention that there are a couple of things that you will start seeing specifically from the banks, the lending agencies to help you with your manufacturing capacity and working capital requirements. So there is some movement in terms of, is there a possibility of extending your credit limits? Is there also the possibility of not holding back the amount of GST that has been done so far, so that you have a little bit more cash flow available to you. So those are the specific things that the government is currently working on, so that you have the ability to go a little further than what you would have been able to do otherwise. But also the broad things that Sandeep talked about in just creating policies to help explicitly some manufacturing within India, because those opportunities are coming here. Those are things that you should definitely look at. I think this is also the opportunity that I talked about post this crisis. So we'll take one last question.
Thank you, Ravi and Sandeep. Yeah, keeping time under consideration. Our last question is from Naveen Shukla, who's managing partner at Spark Industries.
Good afternoon. For the industrial e-commerce, is there still any scope for new players to come in? And how do you see the growth for these companies in the next 6 to 7 years?
Did you hear the question, Sandeep?
Yeah, so maybe the question is about industrial e-commerce. So, so you're thinking about a platform like what a mobile building or what?
Yeah, like Moglex or industry buying.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you look at the total amount of procurement that's happening nationally, right, and the size of these companies, there's still a tremendous opportunity. You could build a specific vertical specific solution in a market which allows you a better access to suppliers, better access to customers, better understanding of what that market needs, and so on, right? So I think that space is still reasonably open in terms of what we can build.
Right, sir. Thank you.
So thanks for the questions, guys. It was really interesting. I would like Mr. Ravi Narayan to conclude the session.
Great. So thank you very much for joining us on this session. Sandeep, special thanks to you for making time for speaking to the entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs who are not just in Telangana but all across India. So we work closely with TAI, Mumbai, TAI, Delhi, others, so that we can do some of these basic stuff together. And then there are others that we do specifically when we focus on certain startups here. So thank you very much for making the time. So as you can see, thank you. So as you can see, we are looking to take a much more proactive approach to actually being there when you really need us. So one was the set of webinars that we're doing. Besides this, we are also providing one-on-one mentoring possibilities. Vinota can talk, give you more details about that as we go along. But from the time that we entered this crisis to now, we are probably 200% more mentor hours being expended to help the startups as you go along, and we just see that increasing. So one is to give you gyan in this kind of a broad format, one to many, but is another that we also want to do, which is on a one-to-one or closer to one-to-one if we can, so that you get specific inputs for what you are struggling with right now. So look upon us all collectively as somebody who can actually see you through this, and then also prepare you for the new set of opportunities that are coming your way. So with that, I will close the session. Thank you once again, Sandeep.
Yeah, thank you.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Stay tuned for more webinars and please visit our website. Thank you.